So in today's video, I'm going to pull this body off the pan and start tearing into this floor pan. Got to do a whole half, and honestly this car's turned into more work than I anticipated. It's fine, but I really didn't need this much more right now. The package tray, it's bad. All the way up into the rear vents. That engine fire just ate it up real bad. So I had to go get a completely, basically I just went and bought a donor car. I found one out of 5 that I went and looked at that actually had a good package tray all the way up to the back fence. So I'm going to be grafting that in and doing this floor pan. So stick with me. Let's knock this thing out. So I did want to make a little note that after I cut the hood handle off of this and everything, because the previous owner had no clue where it was or anything, they'd only had a short period of time and all that. So anyway, I get it all off and spare tire is out, and it was pretty dark, you know, at that point. I had my daughter come in here and vacuum out the little bit of stuff that was in here, and then I bend over and I notice, hey, wait a minute, there's the tube. Where the heck is that going? Sure enough, can you see right there? There it is, hanging with the fuel line wrapped around it. So, ironically, they'd set it up like that. I would have never guessed. And even when I was pressure washing, it seemed like it was tucked back in there a little more, and I just didn't see it. So anyway, I thought that was pretty interesting. So there you go. Always more. I got my 2 workers out here getting it cleaned up and ready to pressure wash. This morning, I'm gonna work on my own stuff for a minute. Was working on the Gia yesterday and chasing cars the day before that. So I gotta get out here and get on this because after all, I bought this to drive and look at it. Anyway, so I'm going to start with cutting this floor pan out. I've already removed their junky patches. That heavier gauge steel I thought was going to be good to kind of hang on to patch other things, but it was junk. So I got that out of the way. I'm going to start by removing this pan half. This cross member's fine. I like to leave those. The originals are obviously better and less work if there's nothing wrong with them. So I'm going to come in here, trim it out, and then I'll start seeing how bad that frame head is. I've got my donor section over here, and I'm going to start by grafting that in, and then I'll lay the floor in. It's quite a bit later in the day, you can kind of tell. I started kind of getting it all cleaned up and kind of pecking away, if you will, at the condition of like this Napoleon hat that just keeps going further and further and further. Well, I cut out my donor piece, and once I removed the floor pan and all the other junk in the way, you can see it started looking real nasty. And then you start pecking at it and the same kind of stuff, right? So this ain't no good. I am not welding this into the car. The bottom, start pecking at it, and it goes through. You never know the condition of this stuff until you get it apart, of course. Trying to get the light in there, it ain't gonna work. But anyway, there it's starting to go. It's heavily pitted, which is obvious by that. Now the lighting's really showing it. So this is junk. Not gonna use it. Also, I started kind of hunting around, making sure, you know, I found the end of everything, and look what I started finding. Metal that looks fine, it's not. These little guides, if you will, that are inside of here on this, just, they're ate up. You start pecking it, then they just start disintegrating. Come on the underside, a couple of taps, and I went through that. So now, after all of that and debating what am I going to do and so on, and just kind of frustrated. I mean, it's common. I understand that. It's to be expected. However, my intention with this car for what I'm going to do with it, and, drive it and so on, I thought it was going to be a lot quicker. Like in typical fashion, yes, it's just escalating and so on. Fortunately, you can see one Wolfsburg West pan half I have over here. I have both. Because now, this is getting thrown away. And the reason is because I'm going to come in here and replace this entire Napoleon hat, which I have. I have the new one here already. It was for another project, but it'll work. I'll reorder for the other one. And I have the frame head bottom, but it's for a link pin chassis. Although it don't fit the link pin chassis worth of crap. All up here in the front, it's just not even close. The stampings are off. I found another company online that makes one that looks a whole lot better. Because everybody here and everywhere else that I found, they all sell the same one. Long story short, I'm going to chop it up and use just this underside and just do a strip all the way across. So, all right, I'm going to get to chopping it up some more. All right, so what I have here is a link pin style frame head bottom. That's why you can see that this doesn't line up here, but that's okay. I bought this for the 56 that I'm doing. However, it doesn't fit that one really much better than what it fits this, especially up here in the front. So I'm gonna order from a different company and get a different panel. So what I'm gonna do here is I've come in here and lined this up with these on both sides. You can see my tape line, and that's where I'm gonna go ahead and cut this panel off. So I ended up actually cutting it a little larger. I kind of pretty much went on the other side of the tape and left the holes there. And the reason I did that is after I was thinking about it, you can see, you know, where this flange of the Napoleon hat comes over. I'm trying not to stack all my seams right on top of each other. I'd rather stagger them. So instead, I'm just going to come across here, and I may end up just using these to leave this piece one straight strip instead of tapering it in. I don't want to give any kind of weak point or nothing. I mean, it may or may not, but there's not that much left of this. It'll look just like a clean taper, so I'm just going to leave it like that. It'll look just fine when it's done. Unlike if I was way further up and stuff, then it would definitely stand out. Here's where I'm at now. It's kind of still moving a little bit, but I got it pretty dang tight. This is, you know, obviously just down. I had to bring it up. I had to beat the hell out of all of this because I could just about stick my finger between the two, and now it's right there. These I'm gonna run a bead over, blend them so it's fine. This one I'm gonna have to dolly it just a little more right here. I'm gonna drill a couple holes here on both sides, plug weld it. I don't think they had any on this side, but there was one on this side when I removed this section of the plate. Run a full weld across here. Then I'll move on to the Napoleon hat, but okay. You can see here, this is where the factory had stopped. This was all open here. So, well, you know, obviously this came back to this, but you know what I'm saying. It was welded right across here. And here, let's see if it'll pick it up. You can see a little bit of corrosion right there. It's light. Same here, starting to go up in this way. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and clean this all up, treat it before I weld this panel back on. And then what I've done to make sure that this panel doesn't move back and forth from where it should be, because obviously it's not stamped exactly as this was, I went ahead and gave myself a center line here, and I got all kinds of Sharpie marks where I was trimming and stuff, but I just have one center line right there. So when I line that one up perfectly, I know I'm exactly where I needed to be before I cut out the other panel. Final fitment. Some of this I'll just start working it in, like here's a little low, and I'll just knock it down as I'm burning it in. And this is sitting down a little lower, but, and I can actually move this one in, tighten the gap up even more. All right, so on to the next adventure here. Check out the fitment of this flying pan. Not even close. I mean, it's beyond ridiculous. As well as when it's sitting flush at the top, that's how much gap I have. And it's not the section that I welded in because I didn't touch this, and look at the gap here. And even if I push this side tight in, as tight as it can get, so I'm gonna end up having to cut some of this lip up and then probably have to put a little pie cut in it to let it fold down on it. All right, let's see what we can come up with. So after a good bit of beating on this thing, especially up in here, I took the body hammer, and you can see where I've been beating the snot out of this thing. Basically just kind of kept flaring it up higher so I didn't have to trim this lip off, you know. And then I flared some of this back, and I've gotten it to this point where drop it on there, and obviously it ain't gonna be perfect. I'll just have to massage it as I go, but you know, it's on here. And this side too. So it's sturdy enough now that I can shake the whole pan with it. You hear it's not clunking, as well as teetering it just barely. Just barely. So with that, I'm gonna come in here and strip the paint off of all of this. I'm gonna use my spot welder and spot weld all of this, and then I'll probably just run a bead across here, and then I'll fully weld these across, and you know, obviously the same on that side. So on this side, I went to the bottom here and came over to the edge of the frame head, which I got a bow in it. Trying to look through both. So basically that seam is about 12 3/4. So I come over to the other side, line it up here, and did the same right between the seam. A little harder to see on the side, it's got more goop on it. So I took those two measurements, because my measurement across the top here, let me come back this way. The top of the frame head, hitting it back here and looking down, is different. But that's what my original was. So I took measurements from here, which I'm trying to look through the camera. So basically from here to there, which I'm just doing it quick, here to here, etc. So these three measurements across this way to the Napoleon hat edge, you want basically 12 5/8. At least that's what this one was. And then at the bottom here, coming across to the seam where the two pieces of the frame head come together, and the bottom of the Napoleon hat is right on 12 3/4 pretty much. So that's the measurements. So like I said, I started here, had a clamp there, tacked it, then I got these tightened up, did these two so I could still kind of shift this. Then I went over, I got this one where it needed to be. Same order as this side. Once I got that done, this one needed a little bit of fine tuning on it. I came over here, I tack welded this side when I got this measurement and this measurement the same. And once I did that tack weld, I was able to move back over onto this side and straighten it up. And then I did my final tack right there. Everything is now locked in place. And now I will start hammering this flange down, tightening it up. As you can see, I got a pretty good gap still, but I was able to get it flush at the bottom. And this I'll just have to taper in and then weld it. So I will get all that done and show you what it looks like. All right, so I came in here and I just ground off the weld on this side because obviously the pan's gonna sit on it. Now, these are obviously Wolfsburg West pans, and I just dropped it in here. And you can see how well, you got a little bit of a gap, the hole's off. However, there's just a little bit of an extra edge right here, but that's not because of them. It's because you saw that gap where I had to beat the hell out of this. I had to get with a pick into the hammer. So you can see my gap here, as well as it's hitting up here in the front because this is flared back. Because you see the gap grows coming across, you know. So I'm gonna have to grind this edge back slightly because of this. And then that'll allow this to slip forward and everything to shift over where it needs to go. But I'll show you this side as well. Same thing, I filled in that big split that they had in the seam here. So you can see it's sticking back, hitting that. As well as, see the gap gets wider here. This will move forward, but obviously it's hitting here because of that extra material where I welded it in. Here's the rest of the seam. Same thing in the back. It's a little more spot on here. And again, this is, I grabbed these, slipped the plastic off of them and dropped them on. Tight on that edge. So now I'll mark it where I need to, start cleaning it up. But I mean, both pans, 15 minutes, and they'll probably be fitted and ready to, I'm gonna come in with my hole punch and, you know, get it ready to plug weld in. But there you go. Look how well they fit right out of the box compared to the others. You can see how nicely stamped they are, and they are heavy. I saved this pan half over here. I mean, I sliced it just back. You saw me in the time lapse there, and then I just air chiseled the whole seam. That way, if I got a car that I was buying to sell or, you know, whatever, just needed a small patch section, that pan really didn't need to be replaced, so I'll use it as a donor. But the reason I was saying that is you can put an original pan half in one hand that's not rotted, put one of these in the other hand, and they're the same weight. They are good, thick steel, and I mean, look how nice the stamping is. It's just nice to have quality stuff. It's well worth the money. Because a lot of this stuff, you know, I may complain about it or whatever, but there's no reason that they couldn't have spent an extra day or whatever it would have taken to make this panel fit like an original. I mean, if this part was $100 and one that fit like this was $200 or $300, hell, I'd pay the $300 all day long. It saved me and all the time that I spent in this, and then it's just, you know, you'd like to have better stuff. That's all. And I just want to pass on to people that haven't done this yet, you know, so they'll know what they're getting into and what the, you know, quality difference is in this metal. So here it is after I fitted it. Just took a little bit off of here. You can see how nice, tight it is. Everything lines up. And again, this is with aftermarket it's meeting up to. I barely took any off of this one. It's just sitting here, but I mean, that's pretty close. Move it around my finger, I mean. And then the other side. Clearanced it. Got it all lined up. didn't take anything off of this one. And here's this side. One last thing I wanted to mention here is you usually get a gap, you know, where it's lifted up off the tunnel, and obviously you need it super tight when you're going to do these plug welds. Now, I've got one, let's see, two, I believe just 3 screws I ended up putting in here, and all these areas, and the rest of this it's on there. It's good and tight, and if it's just a hair up, I'll just take my body hammer and tap it in a little bit, because you can probably see there, it's right on it. So that worked out well, and just 3 of them, so that's not bad. Well, let's see, I put one here, so 4 total, because right here was the highest point. Here and here pulled this whole side in a lot. All right, so this morning, it's a nice 33 degrees outside. Perfect sandblasting weather, right? So, shop's all packed up. I had to bring all the cars in last night because the wind was ripping. Pan behind me. And I get out here, get this thing loaded up. Okay, so before I start putting down material on here, I'll show you what I'm going to do. This is the Raptor epoxy that I like to use. So I'm going to epoxy the whole thing with this, obviously. Then what I'm going to do, and here's the pan all ready to go. Basically from here, this torsion tube, transmission mount area, whatever, forward on the bottom, all the way up in the pan frame head here. And then I'm gonna do so I'm gonna bed liner all this with the Raptor liner, and from the Napoleon hat forward on this top side here, I'm going to do the same. So all this will be bed linered after I do the epoxy. After I spray the bed liner, I'm gonna come in here, and from where I ended my Raptor liner back, I'm gonna put this PPG Industrial ALK 200 on there. That's really good stuff. It's mostly resin. It's resin and toner, basically. So I'll flip it over, and then the whole top of the pan, basically everything that didn't get Raptor lined, I'm gonna put that paint on. Even though all the other parts are done, ready to go, I'm just gonna do this today. I just need to get all 3 of these on here so it can dry, and then I can move it out and start laying out my parts and pieces, because some things are gonna be white, some are gonna be black, so on and so forth. I have the engine tins, everything to do. So, all right, I'm gonna get you set up here, mix this up, and let's start putting some material on here. All right, so here it is. I seam sealed all the welds and all the crucial points. I felt like I even got the edge of the frame head like it was from the factory, you know, all that. I think it turned out well. Now, I got a little messier in here because I wasn't worried about carpet's gonna cover all this, but I did run out, so I didn't get from there to there on either side, but I did get the back and around here, which, let's face it, if you're gonna bring water in and stuff, it's pretty much gonna be in here. But the underside, obviously more crucial. And I got all of these factory seams back here. Got them sealed up, trying to kind of mimic the factory look of it here. Let's see if I got this tight or not. Spin this thing. Well, that'll do it right there. So under here, did all the welds, you know, and got the bottom of it real nice and tight up in there. Brought it around. And I did leave a little texture to this. I put this on, which I knew I was gonna bed liner it, so I'm not worried about the texture, but I put it on a little thicker. I used my 2.0 tip primer gun. Just put a little more material out. Just I'm you know, trying to protect it. I'm not trying to make it all flashy, essentially. But again, you know, just all the seams that needed it, I've gotten all those. So now I gotta let this flash off for a good half hour, kick the heater back on, and then I'll come back out, shoot the Raptor bed liner. All right, so here it is all done. You can see what I was talking about now, where I just kind of faded it back in from the bed liner to the paint. Every time I turn this thing over, more and more sand. I guess it's just stuck in the bottom of the tunnel and just working its way out. But it's all right. I am very happy with how it turned out. The texture on this is excellent. The blend out's good. That's what I was looking for. Real nice finish. Real even. And then obviously if I was looking for more show, I would have masked off all of this and done like a hard line and not had any of it coming over on the tube or anything. But you know, basically when they bought these cars and they undercoated them after the fact, that's pretty much what they did, except, you know, they hosed everything, brake lines and the whole nine. So in some ways I'm kind of mimicking what the factory did on some of it. This thing is hard to turn over one hand. So you can see the texture here, because obviously when I was shooting it, it dusted out there. So like I said, if I was wanting it to be all perfect and stuff, I would have masked this off, but I'm not concerned with that. I'm gonna cover it with carpet, so who cares? But this, excellent. All right. So this, I'm just gonna let it sit for probably a week or so before I start assembling it. I still have to paint the rest of the parts and so on. All right, so I'm gonna end this video here. It's about 10:30 Friday night right now. I should have this video up Saturday or Sunday so you can see how current everything is. I'm gonna let this sit for a week or so. Next video coming out on this car will be painting the rest of the suspension parts, all the engine tins, you know, all that kind of thing. Monday, my engine case will be done, ready for me to pick up, trailing arms, all that, so I can continue on with the rest of that part of the build. Other than that, next week, probably later in the week, I'll have a video out on the Karmann Ghia nose repair. Stay tuned for that one because I'm getting all up in there, you know what I mean? I talked to the owner today and he gave him a little shock when I sent him a picture of where the car is right now and what I had to do with it. It's more than I thought even, and the guys that have been watching, you know, along with me for a while, they know that car's a mess to begin with, and it's it's still proceeding on that route. Anyhow, thanks to everyone who's watched, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe, hit the like button, notifications. The like button and comments, everything like that really helps me out, helps this channel out. I'm trying to build it up and keep things going. Drop me a comment, let me know, you know, what would you like to see more of, you know, if I skipped over something you'd like to see it, you know, let me know. Also, like I had said earlier in the video, like the Napoleon hat and the frame head bottom plates, if someone out there knows of a better company to get those two pieces from, please let me know, because I'm doing this stuff all the time, and if I could find better materials than what I'm having to use right now, I'd greatly appreciate it. All right, so that'll do it. Everyone have a great weekend, and I'll see you on the next one.